Sandy just leveled this whole region. And we just have to rebuild. I feel that I owe it to myself and to the memory of my folks to make every effort to come back here. The house was intact. I walked down my back steps. I said goodbye to the house. And I said, I'll see you tomorrow. And I never saw it again. The fact that I'm here every day, that keeps the house alive. I can get emotional at this, but that's the truth. If and when it comes back, it's not going to be the same Wortley that I left on October 28th, but it's going to be all right, you know, and, but it just takes time. It just takes that much time.
Sandy Levine has spent nearly all of her life in Ocean County, a beach person with a deep love for and devotion to the sea and all God's creatures. One of her most stirring independent projects is this film she released last year on both NJTV and WHYY. It's called Heartbreak and Healing After Sandy. And Sandy Levine joins us now.
Hi, Marie.
Thanks so much for being here. Full disclosure, Sandy and I go way back in television, both news reporters and producers.
Back
too
to
long.
the 80s.
You had to say it.
I'm sorry.
Okay, that's okay. You know, truth is the truth. So this is such a beautiful piece, and I congratulated you on it. I congratulate you again. Tell me when the moment struck you that this was something you needed to explore with a film.
My husband is a huge watcher of the Weather Channel, and he starts paying attention when storms are coming up the coast. And I don't pay any attention to him because a lot of the storms don't even affect us at the Jersey Shore. And of course, Irene was the year before Sandy, and we really weren't affected by it. But there was something different about this storm, and I actually started paying attention to the Weather Channel. And about 5 days before, I started to think, oh, this could be really, really serious. So I actually took my camera and went over to Seaside Heights the day before the storm.
Yes.
And I got a little bit of footage. You could see the Jetstar is still there, and people were coming out on the beach to check it out. And I just had a sense that this was going to be different than other storms, and of course it was.
What was that night like for you at your home? Were you affected by the storm yourself?
And, you know, we had some trees come down on our car and on our house, some minor damage, but really we weren't impacted at all. And of course we lost power, so we had no idea how severe it was.
That's so funny to say, my car was crushed by a tree, my house, and you said no impact. That gives you a measure of what Superstorm Sandy was like.
Yes. Yes, and our car wasn't crushed, it just had a little damage. But of course, my father's house had 1.5 to 2 feet of water throughout the whole first floor. And then I met people along the way whose entire homes were washed away. And the gentleman at the beginning of the documentary, you see, he leaves his house one day and he comes back right after the storm, and it's just gone. And I met quite a number of people like that. So we had really no impact at all, but it took a while for me to understand the devastation, the level of devastation, because of the fact that we didn't have power. But once I went to Ortley Beach, I knew for sure I had to do a documentary.
What did you see there that made you feel that way?
You know, it's making the hair stand up on the back of my neck. It was very traumatic. I went to an area, Ortley Beach is one of the places that was considered ground zero. There were a couple of ground zeros. But that was the place where just dozens of houses were just washed away. And I go to Ortley Beach frequently, so I knew what the landscape looked like before, and it was just unrecognizable after. The devastation was from the ocean to the bay. Very, very bad.
Now, as a professional and an artist, I know you to be a very precise journalist, someone who tells the story and, you know, very careful, as we all should be as journalists, with accuracy and information. I feel when I watch your piece, so much of it is that I mean, you really explored the information. You gave us, graphics to tell us, but there's so much emotion right under the surface of the stories that you're telling. Talk to me about the people that you met and how that translated for you. Perhaps it was a different experience for you as a filmmaker to have something that emotional bubble up to the surface.
It was the most emotional project I've ever worked on, and it was interesting because I also very recently watched the documentary to refresh my memory about everything that was covered because I hadn't looked at it in a long time. And I remembered a couple things struck me when I looked at it. One is, I can't believe how many shoots I went on.
Yeah, I bet. And you shot almost all of it. I know our good friend Frank Foley was mentioned in the credits.
Yes.
Yes.
99.5% of it I shot myself. And just the number of places I went and the follow-up with various families as people were rebuilding, I went on a lot of shoots. But the other thing that I recalled was how many people broke down and cried when I was interviewing them. And I wasn't trying to get emotion out of them. The emotion was just right there all the time for these people. And it was very, very traumatic to have your house destroyed, to have your financial position ruined, to have a place you love changed forever. The other thing was, I had been through an experience with my husband when he had a very devastating illness. He's fine now, but I'd say there was a good 10 years when we were going through trauma. And immediately after the storm, when I decided to do the project, one of the things that was compelling me to do it, I found with a lot of the projects I've ever done, I felt compelled. And I knew very early on that these people were going to be suffering for years and years and years. And I knew what that felt like. And I felt like I wanted to help them to tell their story, help them to keep the difficulties alive. It's going to be quite soon when the 4-year anniversary of the storm is coming up, and I'm starting to feel like I need to go back out and see how some of these people are doing. So it was very much wanting to show, don't forget these people, don't forget the long-term complications. And most people come and rush out and help in the beginning,
yes.
But if you have a long-term trauma in your life, that goes away very quickly. And I just felt a lot of empathy for the people who were going to have to go through this for a long time.
And that certainly came through, that compassion, that understanding. In terms of the way the rest of the world sees Superstorm Sandy, I mean, it seems as if there's almost I'm sure there's many points of view, but this looking at it as the icon that is the Jersey Shore and all the ruin and what you dealt with on the ground, what are some of your observations about the treatment of this subject by other artists or filmmakers?
Well, I think that like many natural disasters, the media comes in the beginning and it gets a lot of attention. There are concerts held that raise money, which is great. And it's just part of the news cycle, unfortunately, that we cover what's emergent and what's happening right now, and then we tend to move on to the next thing. But I tried to focus on individuals.
Yes.
And the Jetstar, I was obsessed with the Jetstar. I mean, when I watched the documentary just recently, as I mentioned, I saw that I had gone out at sunrise to shoot it. I've shot it many, many times. That roller coaster that I've been on so many times, wow. Sitting in the middle of the ocean, or not in the middle, but sitting in the ocean, it was just bizarre. And I was very attached to capturing it correctly and watching it come down. But that was, that was an amusement park ride. What I was more interested in was the individual families, right. And how they'd lost their possessions, either all of them or some of them, and the process of trying to come to terms with that emotionally and financially and physically.
Can you tell me a little bit about what it took for you to get this made? I know that it was a project we both discussed when you were beginning. It was really a project from the heart, and sort of you had to carve your own path to make this.
Yes.
I was so impressed with that, and I'd love to hear about your thoughts on it in retrospect.
Thank you. As I said, I was compelled to start shooting. And my husband, and I bring him up again, who has a long, long history in broadcast television, kept saying to me, what are you going to do with all this? Why, you're out shooting every day. Because I wasn't working for a TV station at the time. I am an independent documentary producer. So I just said, I just have to keep shooting. I just have to keep shooting. And my original thought was, I'm going to shoot for 6 months and I'm going to put together a documentary. And after 6 months, there wasn't one positive thing to say. Nothing. Nothing had been rebuilt. No one had recovered almost. People were, because of all the FEMA stuff and the maps and how high you had to build kept changing, nothing was happening. So then I said, okay, well, I'll shoot for a year and then I'm going to put it together.
Wow.
After a year, still so little had happened that I finally said, okay, a year and a half. And by a year and a half, some people were starting to recover. And I actually didn't raise any funding to do the project until a year and a half in.
Wow.
Because I wasn't sure I had a story. So then I started raising money. And so the answer is I did a lot of it just out of my own pocket. And I wouldn't recommend that as a way to make a living.
Yeah, it's tough, but it was obviously
a passion project.
Labor of love,
It was.
and the results show that. So,
Thank you, Marie.
Sandra Levine, thank you so much for being with us. Thanks again to Joe Manella, and thank you for watching. I'm Marie Denoya Aronson. See you next time on The Spark.
The Spark is produced at Riverview Studios, an award-winning digital video production facility, creating programs to help clients motivate, educate, and inform their audiences.
Closed captioning provided by Ryan James Agency. Full service in digital advertising. Strategy and creative with gusto. Relentless about results. Find them at ryanjamesagency.com.
Additional considerations provided by The Vault Authentic Wood Fire Pizzeria. Contact them at thevaultpizzeria.com. To contact The Spark, you can email us at thesparktelevision@gmail.com. You can also find us on Facebook at facebook.com/thesparktelevision.